Breaking news! Breaking news! All right. Today we got some breaking news. Breaking news coming out of Jalisco, Mexico. We got a lot of cartel activity going on. They are attacking the whole city, that state. Supposedly it's because of Jalisco's CNN. I forgot the CNNJ. I don't know the actual gang. What's it called? I think I'll pull it up right now. But anyways, their gang leader has been shot and killed in a firefight, you guys. And now these guys are mad. They are mad because the reason why they got him shot and killed, this cartel leader, was because of the American intelligence. They were feeding this American intelligence to the Mexican government and somehow got a hold of this, all this. That's why all this is happening, all because of the American government. When the American government ends up putting, their own little things here and there when it comes to these firefights, when it comes to other countries and trying to help other countries, they just automatically just make it worse. And then you can't really trust the news medias when it comes to this, because they're going to end up lying off their butt and telling you a different story and a different story, when we got to hear both sides on what happened. Even when these guys are just brutal, they're brutal, cutthroat people that just don't give a crap about human life. They're literally taking people out of their vehicles and setting them on fire, and the firefights are just brutal with these people, man. I'm talking about brutal. That's the things that we should be seeing here in the United States when it comes to the Epstein files and Mr. Trump and all these other people. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to all these things, people should be riled up, that angry and doing that. But, everyone's dumbed down, so we don't do that. And we just want to be law-abiding citizens. You understand what I'm saying? So, but these guys, they have armored vehicles. They call them monstros. They call them monsters. And these things are just crazy rigged out with bulletproof armor on the side. These cartel members are wearing bulletproof armor. They have Barrett 50 cals inside their armored vehicles, and they be just mag dumping, just mag dumping, because they have the money and they have the power to do all these things, man. And they don't care. They don't give a crap, man. They have fully automatic rifles, AKs. They don't mess around with them Glock switches, bro. They don't mess around with the little stuff. They got the big stuff, bro. I'm talking about 50 Barrett 50 cals. They got AS-50s. They got M249 saws, and they got RPGs, bro. They got everything you can think of in the sun, under the sun, man. They got it, man. They got claymores. They got drones with bombs on these things, man. They literally study military personnel, and some of these people are former special forces, man. Some of these people were in the military. That's why they get the intelligence and they know how to start war. A small group of individuals that were in the cartel literally started chaos in a big city. How does that happen? And the military had to respond. You just need even 500 foot soldiers on the ground to start chaos and havoc, man. And what the crazy part is? All these things that are taking place here in the United States, we haven't seen one little incy bitsy bit of that. And there's literally a rifle behind every blade of grass here in this country. We haven't seen any chaos or havoc because, like I said, a lot of us are just law-abiding citizens, and these people have something to fight for, and that is their leader, being murked by the Mexican government. This ain't no game. This ain't no game. What's good? What's good, guys? Good. Yeah, J Tig, yeah, they have MRAPs too. They have everything, man, under the sun. They have a lot of weaponry, man. These guys are brutal, man. I seen a video of them literally slaughtering a bunch of these Mexican policia and these federales. They got murked. Whoo! Ooh, bro, it's basically was just like fish in a barrel, bro, for these people, man. Like these 5.56 308 rounds can't penetrate through their armored vehicles, and their armored vehicles literally have little actual mounting guns that can, the little holes where they just mount their muzzle of their barrel, and they're right there with 50 BMGs. I'm saying not 308s, not 5.56, none of that little baby stuff. I'm talking about Barrett 50 cals, man, and they got maybe dozens of magazines filled up, ready to go. They got armor piercing rounds, incendiary rounds. I don't doubt that they have explosive rounds as well, man. These guys ain't no game. This is no game. But all of this happened because of the American government, bro. Whatever this is another psyop to distract all of us from what's happening, bro. From the Epstein files, from everything that's happening here in the United States, to get our eyes off the ball, man. That's why I tell you, pray up, stay close to the Most High Jesus Christ, man. I'm telling you. And some of these, even how these cartel members are even saying that that the news and media is lying about them, that it's something different. These people will have a different insight on what's happening. I'm not trying to defend them, and I'm not trying to defend the government, because the Mexican government has been letting this happen for years, bro, for years. You know what I mean? They did nothing about it because the Mexican government was also on their payroll, man. You know what I'm saying? But this is something completely different. Like I said, this is a psyop to distract us from what's happening. And these guys are down, man. These guys are down. They're literally driving in vehicles with gas tanks and taking people out of their cars and lighting those cars on fire. And I heard some news stories where they were literally getting taxi drivers off their vehicles and murking them on the spot and setting their cars on fire. Man, these guys are really down, bro. These guys are straight up. I can say they're kind of demonic in a way, because they don't have a whole kind of sympathy for human life, man. The only thing they do is like they're literally, they're literally killing adults, and they're letting the children live. Like, that's some crazy stuff, at least that they have that for that. But, I don't know. I wouldn't know until all the smoke clears out and everything. But they're doing that so they don't get aerial surveillance of them. That's why they're setting so many things on fire. These guys are smart, man. These guys are smart. They don't play around. They don't mess around, bro. And then you can hear the background of the firefights. You can hear fully auto machine gun just tearing things up, bro. These guys don't care. They have ammunition for days, bro. Some of these people are set up more than our ground boots, the boots on the ground, our U.S. soldiers, man. They're more geared up for all this stuff, man. They know the terrain better than some of these federales, man. Some of these military police, they know the terrain way better because they're always on the streets, bro. I'm telling you, this ain't no game. This ain't no game. Yeah, bro. Yeah, I'm telling you, Ray. Yeah, for real. They have, like I said, they have RPGs. They have 50 cal Barretts, bro. Like, no average American can just go buy. I mean, yeah, you can if you have the money, but that's almost $12,000 for a 50 cal Barrett. No one has that kind of money just sitting there. And if you do, then God bless you, bro. Go get yourself a Barrett, bro. You know what I'm saying? But how are you going to get yourself a $100,000 M249 SAW, a fully automatic one? How are you going to get an M60, a fully automatic one? These guys are geared up, man. They have full auto machine guns from the U.S. government, man. These guys have full auto AKs. How do you get those things here in the U.S.? Those things cost like $50,000 a piece. You know what I mean? These guys just have it like it's an everyday thing. They have piñas, aka grenades. They have they have RPGs. Where did these RPGs come from here in the USA? We can't just go to the gun store and buy an RPG, because the ATF will be all over that. These guys have probably even claymores, landmines, and all everything you can think of, bro. I'm telling you, these guys are geared up for war. They ain't playing, man. They ain't playing. All right, I'm going to go right now and show you some videos right now. I'm going to mute myself, and so you can listen to the news broadcast, what's happening, man. It's getting deep, bro. It's getting deep.
Breaking news out of Mexico. Mexico, the U.S. Embassy issuing a shelter-in-place order for Americans in areas around Mexico City and the resort town of Puerto Vallarta after the Mexican army says it killed a prominent cartel kingpin known as El Mencho. You're looking at some of the response, apparently, of the cartel members who have been torching vehicles and even airplanes in the Guadalajara area. Let's bring in Lucas Tomlinson from the White House. Lucas.
Good afternoon, John. So far, there's been no reaction from the White House about the series of ongoing gun battles that we are witnessing in Mexico after, as you mentioned, the drug kingpin and cartel leader El Mencho was killed by Mexican forces. We've heard from the Pentagon that the Joint Interagency Task Force Counter Cartel did assist Mexican forces, not likely with boots on the ground, John, but with intelligence sharing. But after El Mencho has been killed, we're seeing a series of warfare, frankly, going on across Mexico. In Puerto Vallarta, in Guadalajara, we saw images from the airport. And of course, thousands of American tourists visit Mexico throughout the year, certainly during the winter months in the United States. And right now, the State Department is warning all Americans in Mexico to shelter in place, particularly in Puerto Vallarta and the Guadalajara area. But after El Mencho is killed, we're seeing rival cartels engaging in gun battles throughout the day. We're seeing videos of Mexican special forces engaging in Mexican police on the streets. We're seeing a lot of iPhone video, as you can see here on the screen, some of the aftermath, buses destroyed, airports being targeted, and really a lot of chaos throughout multiple states across Mexico, John.
Yeah, I've seen a jetliner on fire sent by one of my aviation buddies. It's a serious situation. The president has warned that the cartels, are essentially foreign terrorist organizations, and he's talked about potentially sending U.S. forces after them. Doesn't sound like that is happening yet, Lucas.
It hasn't happened yet, but many U.S. special operators have been active along the Mexico-U.S. border, John. And of course, when President Trump came back to office, obviously securing that southern border was a top priority for the president. In fact, something you'll probably hear Tuesday night in the State of the Union about how the border has been locked down. We're not getting illegal aliens coming into the United States. That's something the president has touted many times. But the situation in Mexico is very volatile, as we're reminded of today. You have rival cartel leaders, men who possess billions of dollars. They're engaged in the drug trade, a drug trade that is still active, very flourishing. And they are getting some assistance from the U.S. military in terms of intelligence sharing. And President Trump himself has threatened drone strikes in Mexico. Remember, going back to his first term with Mark Esper, in his memoir, Mark Esper said he was horrified to hear President Trump talk about potentially launching drone strikes into Mexico. Remember, after the Maduro raid, there were some warnings from the White House that Mexico doesn't get their act together dealing with these cartels. Not necessarily something like what happened to Maduro and his wife would be next, but there was a warning. Need you, Claudia Sheinbaum, the leader of Mexico, to do more against these drug cartels, and perhaps she was listening, and that was the result of today, John.
Yeah, well, those are horrific images of the burned out buses and other attacks that the cartels have been initiating there just to blow off some steam, and they're taking innocent civilians in the process.
Yeah, turf war.
Yeah, let's hope we do not see that kind of thing in this country. Lucas Tomlin.
So yeah, man, it's getting deep, man. I'm telling you, man. This is like a ticking time bomb waiting to happen, man. And I'm telling you, President Trump, whatever he's doing, man, he's just gonna make the fireworks. He thinks he has the capability and the upper hand when it comes to these cartel members, bro. Your White House is already infiltrated, man. If there's ATF agents literally supplying cartel members with fully automatic weapons and these type of different weaponry, your government's compromised already, man. These people are already working within the government already. Like, what makes you think that you don't have people selling you out already, man? I'm telling you, man, this is deep. This is deep. And a lot of people don't understand how this is all going to affect the USA, because it is going to affect the USA. They're going to start kidnapping Americans. They're going to start, doing for ransom, maybe even just executing them at the spot. You know what I mean? Because our relationship with Mexico has been kind of iffy, man, with this whole thing, deporting illegal immigrants. It's just getting deep, bro. It's getting deep, and this is just it's literally whatever these intelligent agencies have done to this Mexican cartel or whatever, man. It's not just affecting them, but it's also affecting the civilians that are around that area, man, because a lot of these civilians are getting killed. They took over the airport over there, man. It's getting deep, and these guys don't play around. These guys are geared up, man. They have body armor, they fully automatic rifles. They have weaponry that's outgunning the Mexican government, man. It's crazy. It's just crazy. I'm gonna go right now and show you some video clips about what's happening right now. Stand by.
Armando la balacera, la verga, güey.
No mames. ¿Están bien?
And this is just crazy, bro. That's crazy, man. Do you hear those full autos going off, bro? Damn, they're just letting them off, bro. They don't care. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Raymond. And you know what's the crazy part is that the US wants to help a country that's already can't stop cartel members, and yet then they can't stop the criminals here in this country in general, bro. Like, there's YNs out there with switches. There's YNs out there with already full autos. You know what I'm saying? And they don't want to do anything about that. They don't want to do anything. But yet then, they want to go help another country with their problems when we have problems of our own, But like I said, this is just a giant psyop to distract us of what's going on. And Mr. Trump, bro, he's gonna try to solve the problem and become a hero, when in reality, bro, he's just an anti-hero. He's like, you know what I mean? You can do whatever you want. If you praise him, the good, that's on you, bro. Go do what you want to do. But all these elitists, all these powers that be, they're all in it together, bro. They're all in it. you know, and this is just a giant deception, a giant distraction from what's really going on. Who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe even the cartel can possibly even be the good guys, but I don't doubt. I doubt that. But like, what I'm saying is that, you know, we don't know what's specifically happening on the ground. You know, we don't know what's actually taking place, you know, when it comes to these firefights and these wars, man. But and somehow, you know, these guys like got all this weaponry because, you know, they sold all these drugs to us here in the United States, not to us specifically, but to, you know, they have people here on the US, you know, who are doing these things, bro. Why do you think, you know, there's a lot of people that are addicted to drugs and addicted to, you know, whatever the heck they're, you know, substance they're using? Because majority of it comes from the border, man. I'm telling you, man, it gets deep. It gets deep. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention too that Mexico is thinking about shutting down all their power grids, and they're actually even shutting down the internet service over there in Mexico. So what's really taking place right here, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know. You know, I don't specifically know. All I know is that there's a giant firefights right now that are happening over there, and it's just getting deep, man. It's getting deep. You know, and I pray up, and that's why I tell you guys to stay armed out there. You know, stay prayed up. You know, if you know, stock up on ammunition and stuff, because you know these things are gonna come to our home, man. And a lot of people, you know, like they like to pray up and say, oh yeah, Jesus got you, my back, Jesus has me. You know, yes, Jesus does protect you, but you have to do the works as well. You know, faith without works is dead. But if you're doing all the work without faith, that's also dead. You know what I mean? So you got to be prayed up, man. You got to be prepared for these worst case scenarios, man. You better have, you know, like I said, stock up on ammunition, stock up on tools. You know what I mean? So they can feed that ammunition. You know, lately there's been a lot of, you know, I'm gonna put it out there, but there's been a lot of, you know, new triggers for these tools, you know what I mean, that make them go fast. You know, go look them up, you know, FRTs, super safeties, you know, those kind of things, you know. sorry, you know, I'm losing track right here, but you know, be prepared for these things, man, because one of these days, man, it's gonna come here into the United States, and the US is flooded with, like I said, there's a rifle behind every blade of grass, man, and you don't know what these people's intentions are. You don't know if they just want to go and have fun and just start slaughtering people for fun. You know what I mean? And it's gonna get crazy, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna get crazy. Like I said, this is just a giant distraction from us, you know, to look at the bigger picture on what's going on. Like I said, this is spiritual warfare at a mass scale. And you know, some of these cartel members, you know, they worship, you know, the saint, the Santa Muerte, which is, you know, the saint of death. You know, they worship that, and that's, you know, their god in their hands, you know, and that's the way they get all this money, all these fame. You know, they do it by killing. You know what I mean? So it's just crazy that, you know, a lot of these people don't understand what's really taking place, and this is spiritual warfare at a mass scale, ladies and gentlemen. But don't be afraid. As long as you have Jesus Christ, you know, you're prepared. You know, be prepared spiritually, physically, and mentally. You know, there's a lot of you people who watch my live streams, and you know, some of you people will, you know, if you're an old woman, an old lady, you know, like, I can barely walk, I can barely do that. You know, just stay armed and stay ready. You know, go to the range once in a while and train. You know, and I know some of you guys would probably be scared of firearms, and you just, you know, just put all your heart and soul into Jesus Christ. But like I said, faith without works is dead. You can pray up all you want. Just like I said, that there's a lot of people overseas getting beheaded over their faith. You know, if these guys were to be prepared and ready and be like, oh man, I gotta fight these dudes off, you know, in case something happens, you know, they'd probably still be alive. They wouldn't be beheaded. And I'm telling you, man, a lot of Christians are hated and throughout this whole world, man. I'm telling you, like, we're special because we actually are right here trying to throw the truth out for you people. We're trying to express our gratitude and sympathy towards those that are seeking Jesus Christ, because, you know, we want those people to live. We want to keep spreading the gospel as much as we can, because we need the gospel more than ever. You know, there's going to be rumors of wars, and right now, there's a big war going on in Mexico, and then don't forget about Iran, and don't forget about the genocide happening in Israel as well. There's a lot of things happening and taking place right now. Ukraine and Russia, all these things are taking place right now as we speak. It's gonna get a lot worse before it gets better. I'm telling you, as time progresses, things are just gonna get a lot worse. The American dollar is gonna continue losing its value, and people are still gonna be paying, tremendous amount of money for fast food and food that's basically poisoning you. And I'm telling you, don't stay with the hype with what's going on worldly, because I'm telling you, just be prepared as much as you can. Like I said, man, stock up on everything: food, water, gold, ammunition, tools, and work out. Try to work out, try to get physical activity moving in, so you can prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. That's why there's a lot of Navy SEALs, special forces units that just that get these, that are so well orchestrated when it comes to their physical capabilities and being so physically fit, and then also working with tools, hand-to-hand combat, knife combat, what I mean. So you got to be prepared for these things. You can't make yourself an easy target when it comes to this world, man. You got to be spiritually strong and connected, because like I said, this is Satan's kingdom. Satan is the god of this world. You know what I'm saying? I know God is the creator, but Satan is in rule of this world right now, ladies and gentlemen. He will not be in rule. When Jesus comes back, he's not going to be the ruler no more. You know what I mean? If you read the book of Revelations, he's going to be cast down into the pit of darkness, and he's going to be cast out with all his angels and everyone else who did his deeding. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, right now, we have to stay prayed up and pray for the people in Jalisco right now, because they're going through a tremendous time right now. Some of these people are mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, uncles, aunts. We have to be praying for these people. You know what I mean? But at the same time, when it comes to the Mexican culture, they like to worship, false idols like Guadalupe, and they like to worship, Mary. And the thing is that some of these people, they don't realize that what they're doing is going against the Bible. That's why we have to keep praying for these people, so they can understand that Jesus Christ is the only way and the truth, and no one goes through him, to talk to the Father. You know what I mean? So please, guys, be prayed up. Yeah, Raymond. That's why I tell you, man, you have to endure to the end, man. You have to endure to the end. You have to, man. You have to. A lot of people say, "Oh no, I can't fight. I can't do that." You know who did that fight for us? Jesus Christ, when he went on the cross. When he literally gave himself and sacrificed himself to be the perfect sacrificial lamb for us, so we can be saved. There's a reason why in the Bible it says, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. What does that mean? What did Jesus mean by that? Oh, is this enough? Yes, this is enough. 2 swords is enough. Why would Jesus say that? Because he knew what was coming. He knew what was going to happen. That's why I tell you, go buy your AR-15s. Go buy your AKs. Go buy, if you don't like that, buy whatever other tool you got. If you have a shotgun, go get a shotgun. Go get a Remington 870. Go get a Mossberg 500. Go get a Benelli M4 if you got that kind of money. And train with your tools as much as possible. Train. Read your Bible every day so you can spiritually get prepared as well. Like I said, spiritually, physically, and mentally, be prepared for these awful things that come, because these family members in Mexico, the gun laws there are tremendously horrible, man. There's actually just one gun shop in all of Mexico. But how did they get all these fully automatic weapons? How did they get all these tools here in the United States? You know what I mean? And some of these people, you know, they don't have, you know. Yeah, man. Oh, ooh, Ray. That's a deep, bro. That's deep. That's deep. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's true. They don't like cowards. You have to be strong in this faith. That's why I say this. Sometimes this walk isn't for everybody, man. And you know, there'll be these old folk that are so, like, you know, so-called righteous, and they'll be like, no, you can't do that. And oh my gosh, the things I've heard from people's mouths, bro, when I told them you have to fight these demonic beings, you have to fight them off. You know what some people would say? They'd be like, no, I'm just gonna, no, if they come after me, you know, I'm just gonna let them, you know, execute me and my child. Like, what? Why? They're like, well, if it's gonna happen, I'm gonna let it happen. You know, these people are insane. And here's the most insane part about Americans, why I'm so like, oh, you know, if these cartel members take you and you're in Jalisco over there and you're an American and you're complaining about your checkout time, man, bro, like, the system's got you, bro. Satan's already deceived you, bro. Like, there's no you know, I don't want to sound mean, but some of these people are literally complaining about their checkout time when there's a freaking war in front of their door. Like, what the heck is going? Dude, Americans are so dumbed down in today's world. Like, it's like, you know, I try to pray up for all these people. I try to do it, but you know, there's gonna be a point in time, you know. Oh man, it's crazy. You know how dumbed down Americans are? There is a man literally giving out 99.9% pure silver ingots. Yeah, you heard me right. And he had Hershey bars on the other side, and he goes, hey, which one would you want? All these people were choosing the Hershey bars, bro. They weren't even choosing. And they're like, dude, there's a jewelry store right across the street. We can literally go show this to them and see if it's 99.9% pure silver. And everyone chose the Hershey bar. They didn't even choose the silver. Oh my gosh, dude. What has come to this world, you know? And then everyone was like, what am I going to do with that silver? What am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with this gold? Like, dude, these people sound so... I don't even want to cast my pearls to the swine, bro. I don't want to. You know what I'm saying? But I'm trying to wake as many people up from this ridiculous deceivement that Satan has cast around these people, you know. But also, God has cast out a strong delusion to all of us, man, to all these people. So they're going to be lost unless they find Jesus Christ. You know, they're going to be roaming the earth lost until they find Jesus Christ. You know? Yeah, Brame, yeah, you're right, bro. Like, he didn't just say it just to say it. He meant it, man. That's why when you know, when they say like, oh, why did he? Well, I forgot the disciple that cut off the ear of that other man that was trying to take Jesus in to capture him. He's like, put down your sword. You know, those who live by the sword will die by the sword. You know, but guess what? They didn't attack the disciple, you know, personally. You know, they were trying to get Jesus, but Jesus already knew what he was doing. He knew that he was there to fulfill prophecy. But when he swiped that dude's ear, you know, he attacked them first. They didn't attack the disciple first. He attacked them. And Jesus said, you know, if you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword, man. You know what I mean? Peter, thank you. You guys want to comment? Yeah, Peter was the one, you know, that did it, man. And Jesus was right there. And, you know, his enemies were going to take him and sacrifice him and put him on the cross. And he healed that man. He healed his ear, ladies and gentlemen. That's so beautiful, man. Even though they were coming to take him, you know, his man's ear got sliced off by one of his disciples. And then, you know, Jesus just put his hand on his ear and then healed him, man. Like, that's beautiful, man. Like, Jesus was so much love and compassion. Like, I can't, like, you know, imagine just being in the presence of Jesus Christ, you know, in the time that he was here on earth. Like, You know, we have to just continue having uttermost faith in Jesus Christ, because, you know, the people who witness him in person, like, I can't just imagine the feeling of seeing the Messiah, of seeing our King of Kings, like, in front of us, you know, in person. And that's why I tell you to endure to the end. You never know, you know, we know man knows the hour or time that he's coming, but except our Heavenly Father, God, our Lord, you know, whenever that time comes, you know, I want to be in the presence of Jesus Christ when he's here in the flesh. I don't want to wait till I, you know, get murked. I don't want that, man. I'm going to fight to the end. I want to see Jesus Christ in the flesh. Do you? I do. I totally do, man. I'll do whatever it takes to endure to the end, bro. I know some people are going to be like, no, you won't be able to see him in the flesh. But if he's here in the flesh, here on earth in the flesh, you'll be able to stand in his presence, because, you know, he's not God. But what I'm saying is he'll be here in as, you know, Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? You know, and we can't go to heaven and stand in the presence of our Lord because we're full of sin. We're full of sin. But look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Jesus Christ, when he was here on earth in the flesh, sinners touched his robes and they were healed because of his uttermost faith to Jesus Christ. Like, can you just imagine that? Man, it's just insanity, man. This world is just crazy right now. But that was just my life, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sticking by my life. You know, for those who are late in the live, you know, I was just talking about everything that's going on in Jalisco. Pray for for our fellow Mexican neighbors, man. Pray for them, you know. We gotta love our neighbors. Thou shalt love your neighbor, you know what I mean? As you love yourself. So we have to continue doing this. Yeah, Raymond. Yeah, man. We have to continue, you know, like I said, we gotta endure, because no one's just gonna get raptured up. Jesus, God, our Lord is just gonna be, come my people, come. No one's gonna get raptured up, man. We're gonna have to wait till Jesus Christ comes back. You know what I mean? We have to wait till Jesus comes back and endure all these trials and tribulations that are coming ahead of us. Look forward to Jesus Christ. Always think him. Have him in your heart. Have him in your mind. Always pray up. But especially right now, pray for those people in Jalisco right now, because there's a lot of innocent people, you know, in the middle of that firefight, you know, losing their lives. Thank you guys for watching. I'm American Mexican Gunslinger. God bless you all who have watched this. God bless you all in Jalisco. God bless you all Americans. I'll see you guys around. Peace.